Hi everyone, it's me, Tim. Are you ready for a toy update? This will be toy update number 3. I'll link part 2 and the first one down below. But this is because when I did toy update 2 and I was showing off my space game with some ideas I had, I got so many good ideas of what to do with the shields on enemy ships that I had to do them. So I spent a weekend learning how to do shaders in Unity. And it's not that bad. I thought I was going to have to do a lot more work than I did. So let me show you. If you are using the universal render pipeline, which is what I'm using, or the HDR, the high definition render pipeline, you basically already have shader graph. So I just made a shader folder, went in there, right clicked and said, create a shader graph. And boom, this is what I see. Now you can see that I get the vertex and fragment parts. They're already in there. So what I did was I created a new variable that's of type color called shield color, and I piped that into the color on the fragment. And then I made a new node called Fresnel, because one of my viewers had a great idea of using Fresnel effects. Fresnel effects are for a sphere, well, for any object, if your view is aligned with the normal, so it's either pointing right at you or pointing away from it, then it's pretty clear. It returns a 0. And then if it's orthogonal, it returns a 1, which means when you put it on a sphere, the sphere is clear in the center and gets brighter towards the edges, which is exactly what I want. And you can adjust that. So what I did was they already had this node in the math nodes under vector, there was a Fresnel. So I put that in there. And then that got piped into the alpha input on fragment. I added the normal view vector and the view vector. The normal vector and the view vector already exist as nodes. Pipe those in. And then for the power variable, which constrains how far out before the Fresnel effect looks. If it's a really high number, you only see down the edges. If it's 0, the whole thing becomes opaque. I made Fresnel power a variable. Now, let me warn you about a script issue I ran into, because you might run into it too. If you look up in the corner here where it says shield power and Fresnel power, they're exposed. Like this is shield power. Shield power, I named shield power, and the Unity put in some random name for it. I think it was like vector3 underscore a bunch of junk. So I renamed it shield power, just like the name. So the reference and the name are both shield power. However, it renames it. It renames the reference. You can't have spaces in reference names. So it put an underscore in there. So my script didn't seem to be working, and then I realized, oh, even though I typed shield space power for the reference name, it made it shield underscore power. So I went back in my script and made it shield underscore power. And that's the variable that I control from what the color of the shields I want. Let's see what it looks like.
Warning.
Okay, that was pretty cool, but that was just with the power fixed at 1.7. And what I wanted to do instead was when the shields first come on, they're just near the edge. And as they get more and more damaged, you start to see them everywhere. So you can just visually, when you glance at a ship, if you barely see a flicker there, the shields are running at full strength. As soon as you start to see most of the shields there and they're glowing and they have color, which I'll talk about in a minute, that's when they're pumping away a lot of energy and they're very damaged. Watch this.
Warning.
Okay, so what we saw there was as the shields took more and more damage, they kind of closed in on the ship. Several other viewers thought that my color scheme wasn't right, so I decided to come up with a new color scheme for the shields. The first thing I did was, remember I said in the previous update that I just set the colors to change at certain set points. Not this time, I actually made a gradient. So the gradient I wanted to use starts at white and then goes down through blue and yellow into orange into red. Red is really damaged because a lot of people, you were saying red in your mind means damaged. I made that into a gradient. That gradient is based on the number of shield hits that are remaining. So when the shield can take 10 hits, and it hasn't taken any hits, then it looks white. And then if it's taken a ton of hits, it moves down into the red part of the gradient through blue, yellow, orange. This is the code. This is the code where I create the gradient, and then this is the code where I use it. And now let's see what it looks like with the new reversed color gradient.
Warning.
So I thought that was pretty cool. The one last thing remaining that I wanted to do on this update was, and it's something I want to point this out because I love it. Another viewer said, hey, why is your targeting cursor opaque? Why don't you make it transparent? It'll be easier to target things. Let me just say, first of all, it's a simple idea, but it's very, very insightful and it's intuitive. And I hadn't done it. This was as trivial as just taking the alpha. I was setting the color of the targeting cursor to, I think, color.green from Unity. I just went in and changed the alpha to 0.25, and now we have this.
Warning.
Isn't that so much better? It's a perfect example of sometimes there will be a simple idea with a simple execution and it just makes things better. Anyway, most of that was about me changing shaders, but I got that little targeting cursor change in there too. That's the latest update on my space game. Thinking about making the whole HUD transparent, but I think it might be hard to read if I do that. I don't know. What do you think I should do next?